606.
Carrie, are you going to take notes for the call of the meeting 605?
So the first item on the agenda is budget development. I'll turn it over to the superintendent.
All yours.
We didn't want to talk about the priorities. We want to talk about the priorities first.
Yes, that's what you,
Right, we want to talk about the priorities for 2015.
okay. It says budget development on the agenda,
Yes.
but that's all right.
Less
Yeah.
the technical, but
Yes.
the substantive here.
Yeah, we want to talk about the priorities of 2015, first 2014, 2015, what has been accomplished, and then we want to talk about the budget priority for 2016, 2017,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
So that's not here in the agenda?
No, it's there on the agenda. We
It
want to
is.
talk about the budget priority for
It all
2014, 15.
budget development.
Yes.
That's under
all-
umbrella
It's a good.
heading for
it's-
that.
Yes.
Okay.
So we want to talk about what were the priorities for 2014, 2015,
Okay.
and what has been accomplished very briefly, and then we go into the rest of the agenda.
That's in this package?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go to the first pages. So if you take a look at 2015, 2016, the current budget, we had some priorities for this year. While aligning the curriculum with instruction on the Common Core, provide mathematics and reading resources to implement the Common Core, improve the district learning assessment process, introduce algebra in the 8th grade, enhance K through 12 music and art, support the early college program, ECHO at the high school, and provide instructional technology in the classroom. So those were the priorities for 2014, 2015.
Okay, now, I know that the aligning the curriculum to Common Core is a work in progress.
Okay, so let's,
And that the mathematics and reading resources also work in
okay,
progress.
so if you go to the other page, we'll tell you what are the accomplishments in each one of these areas.
Okay,
So when aligning the curriculum and instruction to the Common Core, we have developed pre-K through 12 math and ELA maps already, has been developed. So it's finished, the process is finishing right now. Provide mathematics and reading resources to implement the Common Core. We developed the teacher coaching model for all the teachers. We purchased textbooks for K through 12 in math and high school social studies and science. And we developed the K through 12 reading initiative that is still in progress.
okay.
Improve the district learning assessment process. We instituted the data team process in all the schools and the district, and we trained. And we created post-map assessment for the ELA and the math. So, and we do have a system of data to do that now. And we're going to enhance we plan to continue enhancing the data teams for next year. Some schools already, like Barrows, will have an additional data team teacher at Barrows called IC. We introduced algebra in the 8th grade. We instituted a summer algebra camp, and we have 109 students taking algebra this year that are Algebra 1 for credit for high school credit. So we started from zero.
How many 8th graders do we have?
Yeah, right.
How many 8th graders we have? I think we have over 168 of them.
There's
So about-
60 just at Barrows alone.
Yeah, yeah,
So about
there's-
80%,
yeah,
about.
are taking
Well, no,
algebra.
if there's 60 at Barrows and they're all taking,
No, they're not all taking it.
Not all
Yeah,
taking
why
algebra.
not?
Because they're not all ready to take it.
Not all of them are taking, but the majority of the kids are taking algebra.
Okay.
Yeah. I know we have 109. I can get you the other number. We have music and arts. We have one additional music teacher, and that's very important because the high school student had the opportunity to perform at different venues. The college program, the ECHO College program, is working very well. We have 34 students in the program, and this year we already have 28 enrolled for coming year.
Refresh my memory here, what grade are these students?
Ninth grade, started in ninth grade.
In the ECHO.
In the ECHO. So these are the kids that want to finish with the associate degree.
Okay.
And in providing instructional technology in all the classroom, we bought 77 more smart boards that install all across the district. So these are the accomplishment with the initiative for 2015.
So how many classrooms do we still have that don't have smart boards?
I can get you the exact number. Do we know the exact
Okay.
numbers? But very small numbers now.
It's, I want to say like 30 primary education classrooms
Yeah.
and maybe another 25 to 30 secondary.
Not that much in
No,
the
not
secondary.
much. We're very, very close.
15 to 20 maybe in the secondary level, middle and high school,
So we've got somewhere around 40 or 45 to go?
to go. I would say a range of 50 maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, to
Somewhere
go.
around to go.
Yeah. Those for your information, I know that this is the DERF We had 7 school districts in the DERB, so I just want to show you a little bit in the accomplishment and the achievement. And I'm not going to go over it, but as you can see, although it's the DERB, how we rank first, second, or third in the SBAC rankings in math and ELA. So as you can see, we either rank first, second, or third in any one of the grades in the SBAC assessment. So those were the priorities for 2015 to 16, and this is how we're accomplishing, this is the accomplishment of those priorities to 15 to 16. So do you have any question before we move on to this year budget?
All right.
Can we move on? Good. So let's talk about the priorities for this coming year, 2016 to 17. One of the things that we think very seriously and very importantly that we need to infuse in the high school is the IB program, the International Baccalaureate program. As we look at the high school and we look at where we want to take the high school, the science area or the STEM area has ECHO and will continue to expand other areas, but the arts and humanities that we want to expand the arts and humanities should have different pathways. So I put an article in your packet about the International Baccalaureate program. I hope that you're able to read it. Very, very important, but this is a program that we want to expand and investigate and research for next year. Develop social studies and science map. We started with ELA and math. We're going to work in social studies and science, and we're starting that process. I put redesign the bilingual program, and I put the redesign because years ago, the district did have a very outstanding bilingual program. That was a model in the state, and we don't have one now. So we have to go back, and I said redesign, bring that program back to life, maybe with some new strategies, with new resources and new, some new strategies. But we need to bring back our bilingual program. Our number of ELS students are increasing, so we need to do that.
Who will be in charge of that?
That's going to be under curriculum and instruction, and definitely under the Office of Bilingual Education.
Okay. Karen Love.
Karen Lopak, yeah. Expand college learning opportunities. This is also a big one for the high school. As we look at expanding the ECHO program as one of the opportunities, we also are looking at how we create that package of a student leaving here with those 24 general education courses for college. We started that already. We look at all the courses that we have. We started the conversation with UConn, but that will take not only offering the courses, it takes teacher certification, it takes other resources to get those courses, and that students can leave here not with 30 credit, because sometimes they leave with 30 credit, but not all 30 are transferred. So what we're doing is creating a program that they can leave with their first year at general studies. So that's one of the things we want to do. Build teacher leadership and teams. We don't have the high salary, but I do believe that if we develop programs to give teacher ownerships, I think we'll able to use it as a retention tool. So what I would like to do, and this is a program with university, with UConn, we already had conversation with UConn. They're working in Hartford on this model. We want to develop teacher leaders in the district. So this is one of the priorities that we want for next year. How do we develop teacher leaders in the school? So teacher teams and teacher leaders, and this will be developed with UConn. Music. So we have a very good jazz band here at the high school. I think it's outstanding. But we start music, instrument, very late. I think the first time the students get to an instrument is at the middle school. We don't have instrument in the elementary school.
We have
used to.
instruments in the elementary schools, we don't have a teacher for them.
Well, we don't have
That's
an instrument class.
most of
So
the
We
same
don't,
thing.
right.
we have the actual instruments, so that shouldn't have to be a major output. There may be some refurbishing of them, but that shouldn't have to be a major output wuthin this budget. It's just,
Problem is, we need a budget for a teacher.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Right.
And we still have to buy some instrument for some school. Not every school has, appropriate
And the
instrument.
question whether you have the right mix.
But I think if you want to expand the music program at the high school, you have to start it at the elementary school. So we need to start music, I will say, instrument in fourth grade. So kids should be playing an instrument at least in fourth grade. And that way you can expand your music program at the high school and at the middle school. Right now, the way how we have it set up, kids are not playing instrument in elementary school.
Actually, if I understand what people tell me about musicians, fourth grade is late.
Could
I mean,
be.
it's all right. I mean, when I went to school, they handed me a trumpet when I was 10. I was in fourth grade. I was never very good, okay? I mean, I played, I enjoyed it, it was fun, but if you're really going to be very good, you need to start earlier.
Well, okay, so my proposal is this. I don't have an issue starting in first grade if that's possible. I do think we need to start somewhere. So if we
Fourth
started
grade
in
at
fourth
least.
grade, then maybe the next year we could move it on to third grade.
Yeah.
We'll start somewhere. You can start in first grade, second grade, kindergarten. It doesn't, what I want is that the kids are able to play an instrument.
I'd like us to be thinking in that, fourth grade's a fine place to start.
Yeah.
But I'd like us to
Yeah.
recognize that it would be useful to encourage starting even earlier.
So if we
I
can
agree with you.
get a teacher and retain them to be able to teach in the fourth grade
Yes,
level
I
for a year
understand it.
before
I
we move
understand the
down.
problem.
Another program that brought to our attention, and this is particular for the high school, and we have spoken to some high school students, and actually teachers, not only teachers from the high school, but teachers at Natchog, that was a teacher that brought this to our attention, is that we want to investigate the development of the JRTC program. This may not happen right away. It takes years in the making and years in the planning, but
Can you spell that out? What is JROTC?
the junior Reserve Officer Cadet, right.
It's,
So,
it's controversial.
yeah, it could be. But we have kids that leave here and go in the Navy, the Army, the Air Force. So we have kids that leave here.
Junior.
Yeah.
The ROTC.
So we have kids that leave here and go in the Army, Navy, and if they live in here, if they can leave going to the officer cadet, why not? I mean, it does
It
investigate.
becomes another option.
It's another option,
Paying
right.
for higher education.
Another option to pay for college.
You can have a big program. also.
Yeah.
You can have a very
Air
good
Force-
program.
Air Force and Army.
Well, ROTC and JROTC are not nearly the same thing.
No.
No.
No, but it's, in high school, it's JRTC.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's controversial.
No.
Well,
Investigate.
investigate, but it's another option, right. And then another option, another program that really is, we have a long waiting list, we have parents that are very interested, we have teachers, we have community members, it's investigate the development of the K through 8 dual language school. So we have compañeros in the middle school, and we have compañeros at near Windham. We have programs all over the place. Natchog was interested in starting one, but this district does deserve a K through 8 dual language school. I think we have the capacity to do it, so this is one of the priorities that we put for next year. And then we'll continue with the other priorities that we are implementing this year. Definitely parental engagement, we'll continue with that. We'll continue with the ELA and MAP curriculum initiative, developing those MAP. The reading initiative, that is going very well. We will continue, we have a K through 12 reading initiative. Professional development opportunities, we have invested a lot in human and financial resources this year. We'll continue with that. As I said, one of the programs that we want to develop is the data team process, much, much better than what we have. We have included at least 2 more data team teachers in the budget, one for Barrows and one for another school. And we will continue to enhance instructional technology and try to get those other computers that we need. So those are the priorities before we go into the numbers. Any question about the priorities before we go into the numbers?
I have a question. Build teachers leadership team.
Yes,
How
build
does
teacher.
the process work? How do you pick teachers that are going to become leader? How do you create or build the teams?
Good.
How are they process?
Okay, so we have not developed our process for selection yet. UCAN has the proposal of how to develop that. The model right now is in Hartford, but there will be some criteria how to, there will have to be, number one, some teachers have to demonstrate some type of leadership skills. They will have to demonstrate some type of knowledge and skill to do this, because what we're looking is creating a pipeline here of teacher leaders that could move into other position eventually, or principal, assistant principal, et cetera. So we don't have the process solidified. The proposal, we should submit the proposal by the end of next month to UCAN. UCAN is the one that's going to work with us on this.
If that has something to do to like the team leader?
So that's different. So what we have now at the high school are program leaders at the high school.
Program leader, uh-huh.
So we have a social studies program leader, but this is more managerial per se. What we're trying to do here is develop leaders that are different than managing. So we're trying to develop teachers that can lead teams in their building, lead initiatives, and eventually can be assistant principal or principal of their schools.
So will it be possible to come out with a policy that those team leader or program leader or teacher leader, whatever you want to call it, it can be only for certain years, rather than some of them have been for 10, 15 years. If they can serve only for 2 years and they give the opportunity to another one for another 2 years.
That's more
it
like a
will-
department head.
Yeah, well, will be great for everybody,
yeah.
rather than have one for 10 or 20 years.
I'm not sure it would be appropriate to apply policy to that kind of thing.
Right, it's the
That would be an
process.
that would be an
Yeah.
operational
Yeah, but it will be in
responsibility.
the policy, then we'll back up whatever the principal say. What I say is to build leadership, it's good to give opportunity
To
to
do
others
others,
there.
Of course.
Yeah.
Rather than one being a department head or team leader for, let's say, 20 years,
Yeah.
which is not
But-
good. It's not good.
Elected department heads, are those policies from this board, or are
No.
they by laws by the school?
They're by the school. There's some criteria under the contract how department heads are selected.
Okay, so that's somewhere else.
Totally different than this.
Yeah, but we would have a policy that say no more than,
Sure. This,
so it
this,
can be applied.
yeah,
But
this
I
is,
think Mr. Montalvo's experienced is getting someone who is young and new and having them be possibly an excellent teacher, but then get set in their ways and continue to do things the way they've been done, which is something we've seen just here at the high school, and not look for innovative new ways to do things because, well, it works 20 years ago, we'll just keep doing it this way.
well, the purpose of this priority, this priority, developing teacher leaders, developing team, is to do that, is to develop teacher capacities, to develop leadership capacity, and to give more opportunities to others, is to look for innovation. So we don't have the policies for the district yet settled, what we're working and how the model will look like with UConn. So that will come next, who will be selected, what will be the selection criteria, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, because one time I went to exchange program in Spain, and what they do for principalship there is they have a teachers that become a principal for 2 years, one that had that degree, then another teacher for the next 2 years become principal and so on, so
Yeah.
not all the time they had the same person.
Well, there's
But
schools.
that's out there, so.
Yeah. So there are schools in the United States, we read a case study last Friday, right? Where principals only have a 5-year period in the school. So after 5 years, they're moving around. So it's very popular now in different part of the country.
Yeah.
Principals, after 5 years, they're moving them to other schools in different areas. So we read a case study of Oakland? No, Oakland.
Long Beach.
Long Beach,
California.
California, where the principal only spent 5 years in their schools and then they're moving them around.
And how successful are that program?
It's very successful. Yeah. So there's room for innovation here. The thing is getting out of the box and seeing that we can use teacher capacity in a different way than what we traditionally been using it, and develop that capacity and empower them to do something different and beyond just the classroom. Okay, so those are the priorities. So we'll continue the academic priority. So these are the academic priorities. We will talk now about numbers and the budget, but I wanted to start with the academic priorities because the budget should support our academic priorities. The budget should support the goals of the school district. So it's important to make sure that we're aligning what our expenditure or budget with those priorities. And if we don't have any question, you let me know, then we can move into the cost drivers of the budget and the expenses and the efficiencies of the budget. And Chris and I will be tag teaming doing this section here. I will give him the hardest section of the money. Right,
Thank
Chris?
you, yes. So I will,
Let me start with the,
You want to-
and you start with that, I start with that. Okay, so let's talk about cost drivers of the budget. So again, the number one cost driver of the budget is our contractual increases. Our contractual increases is the number one cost driver of the budget. We're talking here about all the different salary increases and the benefits. So here you have a 3% increase would be $780,000, and the health benefit, $360,000. So that's the highest cost driver that we would have in the district. Then we need to look at our English language program. As I said, it has increased the number of English language students in the district. We don't have a bilingual program. You had one, we had one years ago, a very successful one. So we have to redesign the program, we have to bring the program back to life. That will mean teachers and resources, and we're looking at maybe $250,000 to start in that one.
What's the timeline, you say, for this? Would you say, wild guess, I mean,
Well,
just an estimate?
we want to start it at least next year, September. We're looking at the planning already, so we want to start putting something in place for next year, September.
So that's what the money is needed for
Yes,
September?
right. Transportation, another high cost driver for us. Very high cost driver. You know, we have kids transportation for special ed, regular ed, and other district. We're looking at maybe 100,000. That's much less than what we put in last year.
What
Much less.
percentage is that of the total of what we have?
much?
What is the increase percentage?
It's M&J is our biggest contract, and that contract increases about 3%.
3%.
3%.
And we have about, I'd say, in aggregate, it's 2.4 or $5 million worth of.
2.5. It's $2.5 million.
Of transportation.
Yes, in
yeah.
transportation, 2.5.
So what you're looking at is, vendors like M&J for regular transportation. You're looking at
Eastcon.
Eastcon, M&J, Access. Those are our other vendors. And they all increase each year based on different rates.
Chris, could we take a step back? Did you say that there's an average cost increase of 3%?
For M&J, it's
Yeah,
3%, that
3%.
contract, but then there's other contracts that have different percents increases.
Do we have a line item from them why there's an increase at that rate when the cost of fuel is going down?
Well, that's without fuel. We
pay for our
get
own
paid.
fuel.
We pay, right.
The price of fuel
Yeah.
goes down, we pick up those savings.
Right.
Because we supply M&J at our depot, at their depot with the fuel.
Right, 3% for professional staff is not unusual, but I would venture that M&J is not seeing a 3% increase
They
in their
have a
operating
five-year,
costs from
they
their
have a
staff.
five-year contract, Mr. Kalasian.
They do?
Yeah.
With a 3%
Increase
increase
per
per year,
So it's
typically.
5%
And that's,
per year.
Their drivers are
I believe
unionized?
that's competitive within the state.
Their drivers are unionized?
That I don't know.
Yes.
They are.
Yeah, their drivers are unionized, yes.
Excellent.
So one of the efficiency that we put in here is, it's really looking at that contract. That contract was prior to your board and our time, but that's one of the efficiencies we're going to put in here, is looking at that contract and looking at what can be done, and also, after the 5 years, maybe renegotiating that contract differently.
Well, I was, Tracy and I were both on the board when that contract was.
Dr. Adamowski did that contract. We also have to make sure
Yeah,
that
he
we.
wasn't the only one that was involved in that contract. We saw it frequently. Actually, Mr. French did most of the legwork on that particular contract. But what I remember about it was it was competitive with,
Eastcon?
with.
No, it
well,
was competitive with the area schools.
We
the
actually
area
sent it out for
districts.
bids, and it was even before accounting for the fact that the town benefits from our doing business with M&J, because M&J is a local taxpayer, and most of the other bidders were not.
I believe First Student also bid, and another vendor. I think there was
There
three
were- there were
altogether.
three.
There were at
three
least
of
three,
them.
yes.
Yeah.
DATCO.
Yeah.
No,
DATCO.
it wasn't DATCO.
No,
It was-
DATCO?
It was one
What?
from.
What was it?
Durham, I think.
Durham, thank
Durham.
you. Durham, not DATCO.
I don't know that a more attractive contract couldn't be had. All I know is that we didn't see one that was more attractive than that.
So,
Excuse me, just, in this, do we also have included the licensing for the tracking, GPS and stuff like that? Is that included in the contract? Because we're covering that licensing.
We supplied the GPS systems for the buses. And we also have a software that tracks those GPS, so we can see on a map where the buses are going on the routes.
Right.
If you're
We have to
interested.
pay for that software contract
Yes,
too.
yep. Telogis supplies us that. That's the vendor.
yeah, but that's our software.
Right.
So we pay for it, but it's ours, so we can,
There's a yearly fee, though.
it's a yearly fee for that.
But
Yeah, I think the special master picked it up one
Yeah.
year, and then
Yeah.
we took it over.
Yeah.
But we should be making significant savings on fuel costs based on,
I mean, this year.
I don't buy diesel myself, but when I filled up with gasoline yesterday, the diesel was under $2 a gallon.
But if you take a look at last year, we put in much more in transportation last year
Well,
than this year.
diesel was $1 a gallon more
Yeah.
last year than this
And
year
we
at
had to add
least.
another bus route last year.
And I think we separated, fuel's in a different place, it's under supplies, and yes, we do
That's
have
right, we did.
savings this year. They're quite substantial,
Yeah.
because the price of oil has dropped dramatically, so we're able to get some of that. But the year before, we locked in at a much
Higher
higher,
rate.
and then as soon as we locked in,
It went down.
it
Prices
went
went
down, and we
down.
couldn't capture those savings. But now we locked in at a much lower rate, like $1 lower per gallon.
So what are the savings then?
The savings, like before, I think it was $250,000 for all the buses a year. And I think it's probably, I'd venture to say 50 to 100, somewhere in there. Yeah, 100,000.
So we want to have that in our efficiency. So when we go to our efficiency, you will see that in some of the efficiency. And looking at the budget priorities, not including the English language program, the ELL. Yes, we're looking at maybe 200,000 for those budget priorities. Again, not including the English language learners program.
If you include it, that would be 450,000, correct?
Could be, yeah. But this includes all the other initiatives, looking at IB, looking at the college courses, looking at the teacher leaders, looking at all of that.
So where is this saving from transportation
Hold on.
and gas
Hold
going?
on, we're going to get there, Chief. Those don't, hold on, we're getting there. So Chris, you want to, we're getting there step by step.
Again, this is kind of the
Efficiencies.
top
Yes.
level view. I'm
Yeah.
not going into every line
It's okay,
item.
it's okay.
And it's
I'm
under, it
sorry.
would be under supplies
This
along with
year.
other things.
Yeah, so we're going to get there. So what will be the increases?
Okay, so the bottom line for the personnel increases, which are contractually driven, the health benefits, which are basically health trends, the English Learner Initiative, the transportation increase, and the budget priorities, we're coming to an increase of 3.7%, which is $1.7 million, which would take us from 45.1 million, which is our current budget, to 46.8, which is what we're projecting here based on these cost drivers. So without any other initiatives, we would be seeing a 3.7% increase, or 1.69 million is what all those things add up to on top there.
Before you continue, I do want to remind the board that last year, at this particular time, at this particular first budget workshop, we started at 4.7. We started. So we're in a much better position, but today is 3.7. Last year, we started at 3.7. So we will show you how these efficiencies would help. Correct, Chris, that we started
Yeah,
at 3.7?
we did start higher,
4.7.
but also the 2 years before that were basically flat.
Yeah.
So it was making up for.
Yeah. Okay. So let's look at some of the efficiencies, and Chris, you can jump in here. The first efficiency we want to look at is transportation. And although we increased transportation by 100,000, we think we can really, we will have some efficiency in transportation. We're looking at routing, we're looking at different contracts right now. We're looking at rerouting of the buses in the different neighborhoods. So, and we have a study going on right now about transportation. We don't have the study with us, but we think we'd be able to, a good projection is 100,000 in transportation that would put to efficiency. I am very happy to report to you that the special education program that we brought back to the district, Camino Alto, High Roads, that we have one at at the middle school and one at the high school, not only is producing high academic gains for students and strong changes in behavior and emotional support. I invite you to visit that program. But we believe that we can expand that program next year to bring in another group of students, and that would be a saving in special education. For the first time in 10 years, we have those numbers to show you, special education is in a better position than it's been before. Although it's one of our highest cost drivers, is special education. So I don't want to minimize that, but the numbers are much better for the last 10 years. So we would like to expand the High Roads program at the middle school and the high school, and maybe at the elementary school, and we can see some saving there in special education. Now, we don't have control of the number of kids that come in. I mean, we may project 20 kids and then we get 25 or we get 30. But so far this year, the Camino Alto program, High Roads, and I guess Chris can vote for that, has given us some financial gain in addition to academic and social gain with the students.
Well, I think, as I understand it, you're able to show that regardless of the number of students that we deal with, this is more cost-effective.
Sure.
This is a more cost-effective way to deal with the special education. And
a roll
we get a
cost.
positive
Yeah.
result for students
Yeah.
Right.
and a cost saving for us, so it's,
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
And they don't have to be transported.
Yeah.
well, that's one of the reasons we get a
Right.
positive financial
Yeah.
effect, is because we don't have to pay for the busing.
Exactly, so we're saving right there in transportation. So we plan to expand that program.
Dr. Garcia, finances aside, is there some point in the future where we can get some kind of comparison to how our students were doing academically? I don't want a student by student academically, but a general, how they're doing better socially, academically than they were last year, just so we can see that. I mean, it's wonderful that we're saving money and we can put it somewhere else that we desperately need it, but I want to make sure that truly the students are benefiting from this program. It doesn't do us any good to save money and have the students not benefit.
Well, I do want to say that will never happen under my leadership,
Right, I
You know how
didn't know that.
focused I'm on students.
But I want to see proof
Yeah.
of it, that's all.
Okay, so let me give you some qualitative data right now. I myself personally visit the classrooms of those students, and I'm so impressed to see how they're always on task, they're always doing their work. No referral, no discipline, suspension in these students. And I will provide you with a journal that they wrote a couple weeks ago, Ramon and others, each one wrote, telling us how they feel now that they're at the middle school and how they want to come to school every day. This is written by the students, and how now they listen to their parents, they come to school every day. In addition to that, the principal are asking for this program. The principal are saying this program are working in the school. So it's working, but I will make sure that we provide the board with some evidence. But the best evidence that I can provide you is I invite you to visit these classrooms. There's one at the high school and one at the middle school. That would be the best evidence. You visit and see actually what kids are doing.
But there is an assessment system
we have
in
assessment
place.
programs.
Yeah, so it'd be an assessment, because at the end of the program, we're gonna do an evaluation. Quantitative, yeah.
Yeah, but
And
we're-
qualitative too, both.
Yeah.
We're the right-
Thank you, Dr. Gomez. Yeah, it's wonderful. I save money, spend money, as long as the children are being successful, that's our
I
goal.
think we're on the same page.
Thank you.
Well, but the kind of question you're asking is, are there assessments that were given before this program started?
Yes.
And are there assessment programs, do we give the same, is there something like the SBAC?
Pre and post.
The kids that are in this program have an alternative assessment. So,
They're on
Did they have
special
it
ed.
before the program,
Yes.
and now they have it in the program?
well, they would have an alternative assessment at the end of last year, where they were placed.
Before the program?
Before the program, before the start,
Okay,
yeah.
now they have one this year, okay.
Yeah.
Now we can
So you
compare.
have a base, you
Yeah.
have a metric that you can do a
Yeah.
direct comparison on.
So they would have one in where they're located, an
I know
alternative
it's not a
assessment.
lot of data, but it's some.
Yeah, so we can get you something.
Well, in the course of any IEP, it's an ongoing moving program, process.
Yeah.
So in the summer before school starts, a few weeks into the first semester, and based on the needs of that particular student and their supports, the IEP reflects how they're doing and where they are, and so it's apples and oranges to try and make a comparison between standardized testing and a student in the classroom who's not special ed, and,
Now, I'm not trying to compare students in
Okay.
classroom, I'm trying to compare
One-to-one.
the same student,
Right.
its progress over time, and see whether or not.
right, before we brought them home and after we
Yeah,
brought them
before
home.
and after they started.
Yeah, that's
So
absolutely
we get
reasonable.
you- We will get you the
How do
information.
we know that this has happened?
Well, right, I mean, there are lots of data out there in the special ed world that, as a rule of thumb, that says a district that is farming that program out costs more and it is less effective for the students. One of the biggest drivers there is because they're transported so long, and that has a significant impact on their emotional state. So,
I understand that the likely result is we're
Right.
going to see positive.
yeah, having that kind of, that
But I
in a
think-
subjective, objective report is important.
I think it's
It is,
important, both.
for sure.
Both for.
Absolutely.
Both for our responsibility and for the public.
Yeah.
To know
Yeah.
that.
See some kind of tracking.
That we're making
so-
effective use of those tax dollars here.
Yeah.
And there are many ways to track the emotional,
Yeah.
improvement
Well-
that they have had. You were mentioning, how they feel, but also how they do better in academics or how they're not. I mean, this is an assessment process.
It can be relatively complex, individual by individual.
It is complex. It's just special ed.
Well, I mean, we don't need to get too far into the weeds on this.
No.
but-
Yeah, no, I don't need to know that
Yeah.
every student
No, no.
made a certain amount of progress. I just want to know that this program has been effective, that
That
on
it's
top of
working.
being
Yeah.
a financial savings,
That the
it's
kids are
working
doing
for
good.
the kids.
How it's
That's what we're
trending.
here for.
How-
If we're saving $100,000 and it's not working for the kids,
Yeah.
then we need to
Close.
look at something different. And it's our job as the board of directors essentially for this organization is to make sure that what we're putting in place is what's working for the kids,
It's
so.
simple. you know.
One of the gains also, the kids are home, they're with us, in our school, with their friends, and so we have that relationship with parents that we didn't have before. So it's a win-win. We will provide the board, I will ask Leanne, with some evidence to show academic evidence and all around, socially and emotionally and academic for you to see, and also what the kids are writing about and how they feel now that they're back in school. Okay. So we expect Camino Alto, expect transportation, so we'll have a saver there, a saving of $250,000. And we have some other efficiency. Chris, you want to talk about the workers' comp?
Yes, last year, you and the town gave me permission to move our workers' comp insurance from a fully insured product that was sold to us by Karma to self-insured, where we have PMA as our third-party administrator right now. And this has been very successful for us this year, and I think it'll also be very successful next year. There are considerable savings here, out-of-pocket savings, but we also have to reserve for each claim. So that's expenses in the future. But I think right now, that's an area where we can again see savings for 17. And I think it's been a good move for the board.
So what are the numbers? The numbers?
The actuaries have to provide us those numbers, because what happens is we pay for an insurance product that stops our losses at $180,000. That costs about $150,000 to buy. So over the course of a claim can never go over $180,000. Then also we have to buy, we have to pay the state of Connecticut to provide a second injury insurance. That also is an assessment that they give to us. Then we actually have to pay the claims that are out of pocket. And we also have to pay for the administration of the program for the third-party administrator, the TPA. So all of those things do add up, but the numbers are good. Let me just report to you.
I guess that was my question. What are the numbers?
You're talking cash. I mean, I can tell you.
How good are the numbers? I mean, that's my question.
There's the cash basis, and then there's the accrual basis of accounting. I'd say on a cash basis of accounting, we would have been paying between the board and the town $1.3 million for that policy.
Question. How much are we saving here?
Well, I'm trying to get to that, Dr.
Okay,
Gomez.
I mean, just somehow-
I would say, probably now it would have, our premiums are going up 15% a year, so by now we would have been paying between the board and the town $1.3 million. I think between the claims and the insurance, the first year savings are like about $600,000 across the board and the town.
Town and school, not school district.
The
Yeah,
board
except that we
split,
have
so it's
two-thirds
probably.
Yes.
So we're
But it's still
400.
50/50.
400,000, right?
It's still 50/50. We have more employees, but they have higher risk.
Higher risk.
Because the
Yes.
DPW, the fire, the
Okay,
police,
yes,
Yeah.
Police and fire.
police and fire
firemen.
have a higher risk
Maintenance and service.
ratio.
So
Let's say
then we could say
300,000.
that.
So I would say 300,000, but you don't want to not fund it the first couple of years because you need to put money away.
Right.
And then later, when you're happy with the results, then you can start cutting back.
Putting less money
in.
What percentage is suggested to put aside?
I think getting up to maybe 25%, 20 to 25% is
So
a
this
nice.
15% risk corridor like the health insurance?
That might be different,
Is that the claim?
Dr. Murphy.
Well, okay,
Dr. Sewell.
but the answer to Mrs. Lambert's question is a function of two things. How big is the risk corridor, and how much variation occurs from a year to year? You know, what kind of probability distribution are you looking at? With the health insurance, the risk corridor is 15%, and the standard deviation is about 5%, which tells you that your chances of actually hitting the 15% risk corridor are roughly 1 in 100.
Yeah.
Okay? So that means that if you get 25% saved up, that you can pretty much stop
Stop.
until you take a hit, because you just keep it at 20, just do whatever you need to do to keep it 25%, because the worst that can happen to you is you'll be back down to 10, you put in another 5 and you're covered again, so.
Yeah.
HD
So
Seeger
you
is
need to-
also
you need to
helping
do
us
that
with
kind of
that.
an analysis on this to figure out.
We
how
have
much you
we
really
have
have to have
an
banked.
actuary and HD Seeger who are insurance consultants are both looking at this for us. So it's being closely scrutinized, but so far it's successful. We're only 6 months into it, and I think next year it'll be successful
So
too.
we know we're gonna.
But I don't know the
have
standard
savings, but
deviation.
We don't know how much yet.
But we did look at how much we have more or less.
But the savings that we're realizing now
I gave
is
you right
going
now, it's
into-
about $600,000
Right.
across the board in the town, of which our piece would be 50% or $300,000.
So the $300,000
But
is
I'm-
going
I'm-
into
That's
the-
cash savings,
the
but it
corridor.
would still have to be going into what our reserve for this fund. It has it has its own bank account.
But we don't have to come up with.
But
the
that money
money.
sits
It's
there.
What I'm asking for is,
It's not utilized.
can you
So it's like
find for us a
25%?
number that we know we've hit? Like, when we hit $1 million in it or something like that, then we don't have to be
Then
so
you-
concerned
in
about
theory,
putting
you
money in
can-
that reserve.
Yes, you can put in what
find
you
a
can
number
afford
for
to
us?
put in.
Even.
Can you find a number for us, maybe at the next Budget and
statistically,
Finance Committee?
Even the $300,000, statistically, all right, with the health insurance, the way it is, we need to build up the fund until it's built up by putting about 10% a year. If we're saving 15, then you still only have to put in 10. You don't really have to put in 15. So if we're saving $300,000, we may or may not have to set aside, you do the calculation to figure out how much you need to set aside.
They do that
to
for
be
us,
able
the
to cover
actuary
this.
does
Yeah.
it for
Right,
us.
no, I
Right?
understand
So
that.
there still may be some spin-off. The actuary may say, well, you only need to put 200,000 or
Yeah.
250 in there, and then
The main
you've
thing
got-
is,
Well, but
you're not
that's,
sticking the reserves into the pocket of Kerma, you're sticking the reserves in the town and the board's bank
Yeah,
account,
well-
and it sits there.
Well, you have a reserve fund, and then you possibly have some uncommitted money.
well, that's my concern, is if we're
Possibly.
telling the town that we're saving $300,000, they're going to say, well, you have $300,000 more. But if 250 of it's going into the reserve,
Yes.
then we're really only saving $50,000, and I
There
don't
you
want to
go.
confuse
Yes,
anybody.
yes, you're right.
Well,
So I'm
that's
wondering if at the next
Undeveloped, I'm saying, yes,
Budget
that's
and
what you're.
Finance Committee meeting, you could find out for us how much we need to put in the reserve, how much per year, so we're giving realistic numbers about what our actual savings, our actual pot of money that we're saving that we can use
Yes.
is,
Yeah.
as opposed to saying, we're saving $300,000.
Yeah.
The Board of Finance is going to go, well, if you're saving $300,000, we don't have to give you that $300,000. But 250 of it's already been earmarked for that
I think
reserve.
because the town's doing this too, they're probably a little more sophisticated than that.
I don't doubt that, but you
but
know
we
what, they're
still
not the
need
only
to-
ones voting for our budget
But
either.
Another thing is, if we're saving $50,000, then will that offset the increase to 3 point something? Instead of 3.7, will we have 3.6?
It will decrease.
Yeah,
It will decrease.
Yeah,
That-
it will
it'll
come
decrease.
into the funds.
That's the-
decrease.
That's the implication of
Right.
Mrs. Lambert's question. Is
Yes.
Is that it has an impact on how much we request from the taxpayers at referendum.
Sure. So if it's 300,000 and we only need 250, that other 50, as she said, would come into
General fund.
the general fund. That's why we put it as one of the
It's
efficiency
one
of
of
the
the things
budget.
that we're looking at.
But we-
And we do have an actuary, he develops the losses for us, and they develop them over a 7-year horizon, so we know how much a knee will cost you over 7 years, and that's the money. There's possibly 10,000 comes out this year for your knee, for medical, but over the life of it, they might say, hey, that's a $50,000, based on all of the needs we know,
Statistics,
it's
yeah.
$50,000, that $40,000 has to be reserved for, and I can't spend it, in theory.
So when you get down to it, you have this list of efficiencies,
Right.
the last several of which don't have dollar numbers attached to them.
Only because they require an actuary to take a look, or?
Yeah, okay,
Excuse me,
well,
but with the one with the numbers, we will go down from 3.7 to 3.2.
Well, that's where you total up. And
Right.
You're still, it's still approximate. And-
Right.
And the question is, can we get down to 3?
Okay, so that's, okay, but we want to take,
We got down to 3.2.
No, let's stop shortchanging our students. Let's stop. If 3.7 is what we need, that's what
I'm
we
not-
asked
I'm not-
for.
I'm not
I'm not
asking-
arguing with you, I'm just saying, I'm sorry,
I'm
I'm
not
tired of
asking you to
hearing,
get down to it by
let's cut more.
shortchanging students. I'm suggesting that we still have costs, non-educational costs, that are higher than they ought to be.
Like,
Administrative costs, not senior administrative costs, but we spend way too much money on staffing.
okay. Did you look
Let-
at your packet for Friday? Because there's proposals to add staffing.
It depends on,
No,
depends on,
staffing is staffing.
No,
well,
it's not. No. That's not
no,
true.
it's not.
It is.
No, it's
that's
not.
not
Depends
true.
on what you add
That's
and
not
where.
true.
Yeah.
Organizationally, that's not true.
We're going to keep adding upper administrative staffing. That's largely what's proposed in our Board of Ed.
No, we're not
package.
talking.
No, not
if you look
correct,
at
not
that,
correct.
We're talking, there are some issues in there that involve replacing
No.
positions from people who have resigned in the budget, where we
Right,
have a couple of
yeah.
per diem people. Those positions, those salaries are already
In the budget.
in the budget.
The assistant
That's not
superintendent
adding to the
deputy,
budget.
yes,
What I'm
right.
talking about is now, well, let me give you one example where I know we're not going to be able to do anything about it this year, but we need to get it done, all right? The Commissioners Network, okay? This was sort of a Dr. Adamowski's special, the design of that thing. If you remember, there's a lot of haranguing back and forth, and a lot of controversy, and a lot of pressure from the state to design it their way,
Right.
okay? It created an administrative structure that is overstaffed relative to the number of students that are in the middle school at the moment, okay? But the real kicker on this is that it had some assumptions about how much money was going to be coming from the Commissioners Network, and the money hasn't
Hasn't
arrived.
shown up.
We're eating the bill.
I understand that.
Okay? So I submit that if the Commissioners Network is not paying what the promise was for that design, that we're entitled to a redesign that would reduce the administrative cost of that program, that would save us $300,000 or $400,000.
Okay, but what you just said was you're not looking to cut administration,
Because-
you're looking for savings.
I'm looking for savings out of an administrative budget, not out of teachers, not out of classroom support. The other thing is, frankly, you followed this for years, the standard approach to budgeting in the school district for a long time has been exactly what we're doing here. You look at the cost drivers, you look at what the budget was last year, you say the cost, so we're up 3, and.
We got it last year, we
by
didn't get
and
it this
large,
year.
No,
Although,
never had that
although,
structure.
quite honestly, Dr. Garcia has come out with some objectives, and, she's not proposing to just keep doing what we did last year. She's talking about introducing initiatives and finding ways of saving money to pay for them. But for a long time, this district has simply asked the taxpayers to continue doing what we did the year before, right? That's not so bad until you've done it 20 or 25 years in a row, all right? We've now got network computers on everybody's desk all over everywhere, but we've still got an administrative staff that was built for typewriters. We've never really looked at the staff, the clerical support staff, based on network computers versus typewriters. We've got too many people.
And that's only one component of the org chart. An ongoing review of the organizational operating chart as it specifically is related to functional duties
Right.
is a cumulative savings, and it goes on from the bottom all the way up throughout an org chart. And it becomes inefficient as you get higher, but the busy work of org charts costs huge amounts of money, and I think that's what Dr. Sewell is referring
I
to.
don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I guess that since we're talking about budget, the last 3 bullets, I would just recommend that they should have some numbers there. Because, you try to combine positions when possible. What position could you what are you thinking about? What would be the savings there? Where would you combine or not? I don't know, you're still in the process of
Yes.
studying that.
Yes. So let me,
But then,
About a month to figure it out.
Yeah, so let me look at that. So I do want to first go back to something that was said here. In the packet that was given to you for Friday, there's no recommendation to increase administrators. Absolutely none.
Right.
There's no recommendation there. What I gave you was the org chart of the Windham Public School and 5 other districts similar to Windham, for you to take a look at what they have and what we have, and the position that we were missing. But there's no recommendation in there. Moreover, prior to 2014, this district had 35 district-wide administrators, prior to 2014. 2014 to 2016 now, we're down 31 administrator district-wide.
And when you talk administrators, you're talking at the level of
Administrators.
assistant principal and higher.
And higher, okay? So I'm not talking coordinator. So we had 35 prior to 2014. 2014 to now, we have 31. So we have decreased the number of district-wide administrators, and I believe that is in, I don't know if I put it in your packet. It's in the packet, right?
Yes.
It's in the packet for you to see. So there's no recommendation to increase administrator. What Dr. Sewell is talking about is the support staff that can include administrative staff, not administrators, administrative staff, and others that what you're looking at. So we're looking at combining position when possible in any area, from administrators all the way down, what possible. I was looking at maybe 1 or 2 positions that we can combine, but I do want to say that the Office of Curriculum and Instruction is the most lean office in the school district. Lean.
If we can save money in some places, now you have an option of either reducing the total budget request or repurposing
Right.
the savings, and that's the discussion that we want to have with the Board of Finance and the
Sure.
taxpayers, is the extent to which we can repurpose savings to improve the student performance.
And that's a valid argument, because we need to do things differently. And so I don't think the issue is always cutting and cutting and cutting, because when you start cutting, then pretty soon you don't have nothing to cut. However, you are requiring, and I'm proposing additional initiative to move the district forward. You know, looking at an IB program, looking at redesigning bilingual education, looking at offering more college courses. It's not going to happen unless I have the people to design it. You know, at a certain point, we need support for the people to design these programs. So as we want to create all these things, you need to keep that in mind. Just want to let you know. Okay, so we went down to 3.2, and on the next page, you have the revenues of the district. And we did put the revenues there. As you can see, ECS is there. And I want to show you, I was showing a little bit that ECS has not increased over the years. You have the town, 22.2, and you have state and federal grants, and that includes all grants, regardless of what it is in there. And so that's the total revenue fund. But I want you to see the other slide, and this is the ECS slide. This is the cost sharing, the ECS. And I want you to take a look. Since 2011 to 2016, ECS has not increased. This is a very important slide. The cost, the town portion increases.
No, it hasn't increased since 2007.
I know, but I just brought it to 2011. I didn't go back that far. But it has not increased. So as.
Just the rounding.
Right, so ECS does not increase. Cost drivers do increase, and so this is where we have that problem, because somebody has to pick up that difference somewhere.
Well, what has happened in since 2007 is the Alliance program.
On the Commissioner Network.
And the Commissioners Network. And the problem with both of those programs, the Alliance program is a considerable amount of money, but there are 2 problems with it. First is that it's essentially special purpose. It tells you how you have to spend the money. So you can't necessarily put it where you need to. And the second problem is it's got an expiration date, which makes it really impossible to commit to something that's truly long-term.
And the third problem is that it does not increase. It does not.
Well, it has from time to time.
Well, but not this year. And
No.
so, but salary increases and benefits increases. So if your alliance money does not increase, then that's a decrease,
Yep.
number one. The other issue is that Commissioner Network money has decreased over a year. That was the money for the middle school. So when the school started with a turnaround plan, I believe 3 years ago, it started out with $1 million. I have not received $1 million since I've been here for 2 years. Commissioner Network has gone down from $1 million to 700,000. Then last year went down to like 500, close to 600,000, and we expect it to decrease again this year. So Commissioner Network money will fade out in the next 2 years.
What are we not doing because of the lack of that money? We have 1.2 million, now we have 700,000. How has it affected anything? I mean, what is it that we're not doing with those $500,000?
We are doing.
We are doing it.
We're paying for it.
We
Oh,
pay
we're
for
paying
it.
up the
for it.
difference.
It's making up the difference.
From the general fund.
Making up the difference.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay, so the other one show you
Being weaned off.
the out funds budget. I'm not going to go over that, where we're getting the sources,
Better drop.
state, local, and grants.
Like SIG.
And Chris, you want to talk a little bit about the town of Windham budget and the education budget,
Yeah,
the
the town
percentage.
of Windham percent education, Dr. Garcia thought this was an interesting
Yeah.
slide to show, and what it kind of, if you look at the BoE budget column, the second column, you can kind of see that the budget between 2011 and 2014 hovered just around 43, it was stagnant pretty much for a 3-year period. And then we started to see some increases in 14-15 and 15-16. In 14-15, the increase to 43,755 from 43 million was 1.75%. I think we started at just under 3% last year, and we got down to, that year, and we got down to 1.75. They also took some pieces of the budget out and paid for it.
There's one of the reasons that, the first thing that you see looking at that chart is that there's a drop between 12-13 and 13-14, and given the minimum budget requirement, that...
The hot potato, I think, was the...
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That can't happen, except that there was a transfer of $500,000?
$550,000 for the energy lease was transferred, and
Energy
we
leak was
refinanced that last
transferred
year.
out of the Board of Education's operating budget, because really it wasn't, it was...
Dr. Adamowski claimed a school district in Connecticut should not be paying debt service.
Well, technically, he's right about that, except that everybody knew that it was debt service at the time that the town and that the Board of Education and the town, the Board of Selectmen at the time agreed to it. And
I think there was a disconnect because we got the savings and they're doing the debt
Well,
service,
yeah,
so...
that was, well, I mean, the reason it was agreed to was because, for some reason or other, the town did not want to bond an energy program that was clearly in the town taxpayers' interest. And the Board of Education insisted on doing it to save money, but then it ended up in the board's budget. And then it became a political hot potato, but that was an accounting game, so the numbers are a little bit distorted in this chart.
Agreed, Dr.
by,
Sewell.
by that.
Okay.
Anyway, we got up to 3%, 45,102 was a 3% increase, but what you can see is that the percent allocation, as a portion of the total budget, the board's piece has been declining. So it started off as a 76% of the total budget, and it's gotten down last year to, or this year to 72%. So it's a 4 percentage point decline over that time frame. And it looks like more, the total budget's been increasing faster than the board's portion. That's what it's telling me.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
So that's just a statistics.
that reflects a willingness of the, over several years, a willingness of the taxpayers to pass the town budget as requested, while insisting on reductions in
The school,
education budget.
in the education budget.
You would expect something different, really.
Well, I hope that the current situation is different than it was several years ago, and that the town has a better picture of what the board is doing for the town with the resources.
Well, and the district is moving in the right direction. I was commenting today with, it's not part of the budget, but I was commenting today with the teachers on the benchmark assessment, and clearly we could see the movement in the benchmark assessment. It was very nice to see below basic diminishing, declining, and proficiency and approaching, moving forward. So it's moving in the right direction, and lots of work, still a lot of work in progress, but we're moving in the right direction. So the last page you have now your expenses and your revenues. So you have the salaries, the benefits, the operating expenses, and then you have the grants, all grants, the salary, the benefits, and the operating expenses for 61.
How much do we know about the amounts of the grants for the next fiscal year? I mean, the Alliance grant, because the legislature operates in 2-year cycles, we know how much the Alliance grant's going to
Yes.
be. We know how much the Commissioners Network's going to be. Are we equally certain of the federal?
So you have your Title I, you have your Title I, your Title II, you have your IDA, you have your special master. We know that some of them would decrease already. Some of them will decrease.
So when you get that $15 million total, you're already based on...
Building in a smaller
Just
amount.
small decrease in there.
Some grants fall off, then we get others back.
Yeah.
We've just gotten a new English learners pilot grant
Yeah.
for $200,000, but then just as likely.
Title
another-
II will decrease.
Another one will
Yeah.
decline by 200, but because our portfolio is fairly large between federal and state grant, it acts almost that way in the sense that you have winners and losers, but it stays relatively stable right now. But the big ones being naturally Title I, Alliance, Commissioners Network.
On IDA.
IDA for $900,000. Those are the big drivers.
The other ones are
here.
very small grants.
I think we have about $7 million in state, $6 million in federal, and then the remainder is private purpose, $1 to $2 million.
So, I think what we'd like to hear is that there are ways of expanding. Is there any way that, are there any opportunities to gain additional grants or find additional?
So Mrs. Osuba had asked me,
We are
with some
looking
other
into
school,
it.
do we have a grant writer in the budget? And we do not have a grant writer position in the budget. Mrs. Osuba has asked me about that, but we do not. I'm looking at other school districts that maybe have a grant writer. Can we have a combined grant writer? I'm looking also of maybe outsourcing. Sometime you have organizations that would write the grant for you, and they make certain percentage of the grant if the grant is approved, something like that. So we're looking at some funding for that, but we don't have a grant writer.
We used to have one. She
Yeah,
retired.
that's what they said. yeah.
I do not know, never saw the numbers to see whether or not she succeeded in bringing in more than her salary and fringes. I mean, the key to having a grant writer on the payroll is whether the grant writer can
Bringing money,
can be a rainmaker,
least
can
to
cover
pay
their costs. and
pays his
some.
salary, right, to pay his or her salary.
Not even that, it's that, their salary and fringe needs to be a small percentage of the total profit that they bring in.
There might be a third party, you could also contract with somebody that does it professionally,
Right.
and that does it for
Yeah.
a lot of districts.
And that may be,
Therefore,
for us, that may be
it
more
could be less than-
cost-effective.
Be
Right,
more
exactly.
cost-effective to do it that way.
Their percentage comes when they're successful with the grant.
So we have tried that with some organization. We have not been successful. Doesn't mean that we cannot try it with some other organization. But we have tried last year, 2 or 3 with some organization, and they were not able to get it for us. But doesn't mean that we can't look for some others. Good. Okay, so we can start any question. I know you have a couple of minutes for question. Back to you,
Okay.
Sue.
Yeah, I noticed the agenda didn't have anything on public comment.
But I think you could,
But,
yeah, you can answer.
unless there's objection, is there anyone who's attending that would like to ask a question, make a comment?
I think we have.
Public comments?
Mike? Please?
I don't need the camera.
That's your good side.
We know who you are anyway.
Dennis Cronin, 247 North Street, Willimantic, Connecticut. This is a more of an intangible issue that I have, that I've brought to individuals on the Board of Education. There was a letter by an individual who made some disparaging remarks about the school system, and it's been done in the past as well. And there was a response by another private individual refuting those particular facts. But my concern is that once that particular letter is put into a chronicle, and I understand the demographic and their subscription rate is very small, but my concern is once that's in there and we don't have a public response or not given an audience by that newspaper to reply, I'm concerned because 2 things is that maybe the demographic that read newspapers are older, white, vote. And also, there's people out of town that get the perception of our school system as being dysfunctional. Real estate agents, people, business owners, potential business owners, real estate holders, all read that newspaper out of district, Columbia, Andover, Franklin, and I don't need the perception of our town and our school system as being dysfunctional. And I think we have to address this, because if we're going to try to convey positive reinforcement that we're working hard to improve our school system, and when a letter is written disparaging, because I don't see a lot of letters writing disparagingly about Mansfield, Franklin, Lebanon, et cetera. We need to combat that publicly. We have to have officials from the town or the Board of Education or the public school system make sure that their voice is heard by that publication ethically. And I think ethically, we've got to look at this as a strategy. So that's my comment here, that I think we have to look outside district. Again, when real estate agents are advertising in that newspaper and business owners are advertising that newspaper, they're reading that whole newspaper. And so that's an intangible, I think, about selling our budget. Thank you.
Can I respond to that? Yes. Mr. Cannon, thank you for your comment. But those other piece of information, we did respond. We responded to the newspaper in writing and in person. So they didn't publish it, but we did respond.
They didn't publish it, though.
See, that's the problem, Dennis.
That's what I'm trying to convey here. If
So we
it's not published,
Yes.
it's for naught.
Right.
What strategies can we do to make sure that our voices are heard?
Right.
Because they're editorializing our town in their newspaper without actually giving us.
There's no obligation for them to be fair and equal.
Right.
Can we get a copy of that response? I didn't see that response. It wasn't shared with the whole board.
It wasn't shared at all with the board.
No.
No, we sent a letter to the board. We didn't send a letter to the board?
No.
Carrie didn't send a letter to the board?
There's nothing sent to the board. Can we see that, please?
And send it to the Chronicle.
Yeah, I think it was one of your packet, yeah. We sent it again, yeah. We sent it one of your
I
packet.
didn't see it, and I read the Friday
Yeah.
manual. It's okay.
Carrie,
If
go
I
send it
could
out
make
again.
one more comment.
That what we need to do is to find a communication method to convey outside the district that we aren't dysfunctional or inefficient or poorly run. We need another voice or communication method, okay? If we're relying on this newspaper, unfortunately, as a one-trick pony, then we've got to look to how to circumvent that message. Because once that, if I'm older, fixed income, read that newspaper, there's no other, whatever type of communication am I getting to discount that particular claim? And that's my point.
Well, maybe a strategy is that we count with parents, that parents can be a strong voice to help us.
Right.
Not only the board and the administration, but maybe parents can support us in this.
And I think that's why you've got a retreat coming up. So if
Yeah.
you could brainstorm that, I think
It's a good idea.
is that we've got to do something to get the perception outside of district, though, because that hurts. It really hurts. Again, Columbia, real estate agents that are possibly selling houses to potential families. So I think you get the big picture. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How about the radio? If somebody notify the radio so they can talk about it? Or there's so many programs also on TV that they can talk about it?
So we'll be hosting a TV program pretty soon with the public school, so we will have an opportunity.
Yeah,
We'll
well,
be
I'm
hosting-
talking about this particular
Yeah.
problem that should
No,
be-
we didn't put it on the radio, but we did respond to
We
the
didn't put
newspaper.
it, that could be another way to reach people too.
Yeah.
Because not everybody get the Chronicle. Less and less people are getting the Chronicle because of that.
I don't want to spend too much time talking about the Chronicle in a budget meeting.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who has a comment?
I had a few things. I'm not going to subject, if you don't mind. The first thing is on his
But
point.
you'd like to come up to the microphone, sir?
Televised, the only way you'll be
because,
heard is if you're on the microphone, sorry.
meeting is being televised, so
I know.
you can have your name and
Hi.
go ahead.
You are?
I'm Eric Pomo. I live in 148 Mullen Hill Road. The first thing, I'm lifelong, inhabitant of the town. So I think it's crazy to think that the whole system is dysfunctional. I feel like it's a very kinetic system. My wife is a teacher. I think that it's naive to think that we have a population that's not relatively poor overall. And to think that, and to think we, don't have to take steps to address that is the biggest problem. Teachers have to fight with the demographic daily. You can sit here as the administrators and talk about budgets and saving money, but the fact is the schools don't have it. Okay? And then I hear something from you guys that says combining the positions would save a lot of money. Well, that would also cause a ton of burnout. Okay? Teachers will leave, and you have that. You have the highest turnover right here. And you see it every day, and you have to keep getting new staff, and then the staff that you hire is subpar. Okay, and then they leave. And you know who pays for that?
The students.
Our kids. Okay? That's the biggest thing. And then the last thing that, I was hoping you could actually address that too, the turnover issue, because it is huge. And it's not a little bit, it's very high, all right? And the Compañeros program, I heard a rumor, and it might just be a rumor, that you're planning on moving them, and I missed the first 15 minutes, so you may have already touched on this that I didn't hear. I heard that it's moving to the middle school possibly. And if it is, I was wondering how are you going to prevent a natch hog fiasco, which I think most of you know what that is, which is keeping our kids in a classroom, not letting them have a recess, eating their lunches in a classroom that smells, unsanitary conditions, bad hygiene, and health factors. So if you could address those, that'd be great.
I
Thanks.
can answer the compañeros. So we have a very successful program in the school district. We have compañeros, but it's a program, and we have it at different places. This school has the capacity, the school district, and the needs to have a dual language school. It also will be a tool to recruit teachers and to recruit more people into the school district. I have lots of personnel or professional from Eastern and from Yukon and other places that would like to have a dual language. The conversation is there has been no decision of where we will go because this is aligned to a master plan for the school district. So there's no definite where this program will go. But as a district with a vision, we're looking at what initiative can the district implement. I am very supportive, based on the data that I have, of having a K-8 dual language school. But where we'll go, we don't know yet, because that will depend on the alignment of the master plan to the school district. But what is important is that the district has a vision to develop a K-8 language school, and then work in the logistic of where this will go. So the answer is this a good vision? Yes. Where we'll go? That will be a decision that the board will make as they align the entire master plan for the school district.
Okay.
There also is a direct answer to your question about the capacity of the middle school building. The Natchog students were in there at the time when the magnet school was being built, or it wasn't fully populated at any rate. So there are fewer students in the middle school building now as a result of the numbers going over to Barrows Academy that would otherwise have gone to the middle school. And the Compañeros program currently is a smaller number of students than the total number of students that we house there from Natchog. So the level of crowding that occurred
would be less.
In that situation would not occur if we did something like that again. But as Dr. Garcia said, that's not the ideal solution.
And as Dr. Garcia referred to the master plan a couple of times, Eric, the idea across time is that we're designing the footprint of the district to accommodate appropriately what programs go in which building and are supported by the building correctly.
Right. We've got a couple of elementary school buildings that have not been renovated since the 60s.
I know.
Okay? So
we know.
We have, in addition to the project that needs to take place for this building, we also need to do renovation in the elementary school buildings. And when we are able to do that, we'll be able to reconfigure the footprint of the district, as Mr. Kalajian said, so that the Compañeros program can be, or we can create a K-12 or pre-K-12, or pre-K-8 dual language program in a single building. Possibly a space that it doesn't currently exist.
But you said also you're trying to get it up to the 12th. correct?
So right now, K through 8.
I know it's K through 8, but
Yeah.
the idea is to get it to the 12th
Well-
grade, correct?
well-
Because it seems like an odd program to keep going and then just cut it right off at 8.
Sure. So the state of Connecticut is pushing, and in the next couple of years, we have what they call the seal of biliteracy in a diploma. So in the state of Connecticut, in the next couple of years, there will be a strong push when kids graduate, they graduate with a second language, like in California, Texas, and Washington, et cetera. Actually, the meeting about the biliteracy seal took place last week, Friday, in our school district. So if we have a program K through 8 that is a dual language, reasonable, and it should be that we have something at the high school level for those students. But I would like to turn around your question and to the other point, and said, having a pre-K through 8 dual language school is a very good strategy for the school district, is a very good retention strategy for students. It brings more families to the district, and then the district need to figure out how can it make it happen. So I think this is a good strategy for the district. It's very good for the district. The question is, how do we make it happen? And I do think we can make it happen. We have Compañeros program in our building in Kramer. We have Compañeros at Barrows, Compañeros at Windham. We have Compañeros at the middle school. So we have a couple classes of Compañero at the middle school also. So bringing all of those, instead of making it a program here and a program here, making it one school, one program in one building, will be much more efficient for our students and for the community.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. If I can just say one more thing, though. Part of the problem is the pay rate, obviously, in Windham. The pay rate, the grade.
Okay, yeah.
It's very low. But the second thing is, which you can interpret this the way you want, I noticed that for Spanish-speaking people, you have to be certified in your language. You have to be certified as a Spanish speaker and take a test to prove your fluency. However, if you speak English, there is no test. And I find that to be
But that's not our, that's
Yeah.
the state of
That's the
Connecticut.
state.
State of Connecticut.
Well, regardless, there should be some sort of a waiver, because every time you get a Spanish-speaking teacher who wants to come and teach as the bilingual teacher on the Spanish side in the Spanish
Yes.
world in Compañeros program, you say, no, you are not qualified. And you have been speaking that language your entire life, and God knows you probably know more about the English language than an English speaker, and yet somebody can teach the English language in the English world and not ever have to take the test or verify the fact that they know how to speak the language. So
You're
that's
correct.
it. So-
You're correct. Thank you for bringing that point out. We face that on a daily basis.
We have a number of certification issues with the state of Connecticut. That's one important one. But there are several that make it difficult for us to hire all kinds of staff.
And again, the only people who pay for that are the children.
So, yeah, we hope to be able to work with our legislators and others to get the state
To be more flexible.
Yeah,
To be more
to relax a
flexible.
little on
Certification.
on certification standards,
Yeah.
because, Windham has a problem, as you've pointed out, competing economically with other districts. The state has a problem competing with other states, because we make it too hard to become a teacher in this state.
So, Mr. Swanson, just to let you know, there are people that go from Massachusetts to New York, or Rhode Island, and they'll skip Connecticut completely, because I have a friend that her daughter graduated from Harvard, skipped Connecticut because they were given in such a hard time for certification, and those went from Rhode Island to New York. They go all the way to New Jersey, and they skip Connecticut because of the certification issues. Very tough.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Is there
Any more questions?
Yes, sir.
I don't have any order, but Al Korzinski, Pennywood Lane, 4 kids, all that good stuff. Well, first of all, I just want to say, it's great to have these workshops. I guess you introduced these last year. I'm assuming, Dr. Garcia, this is one in a series. That you
Yeah,
did
there's
last
another
year.
one coming up. Carrie, when is the other one?
February 10th.
February 10th.
And if I remember correctly, they were more increasingly detailed as we went
go along,
So
right.
this is a higher view of it. So I don't know if some of the things I'm going to ask are appropriate. Maybe they're going to be addressed on the next ones. This is actually a question I have. I was going through some of the old papers from whatever, I guess last year, and there was questions about special master funds that I don't know if the district still receives those, what's going on with them.
Okay.
I remember looking through some papers and having some things circled, questions, not sure where funds were going, what they were being allocated for. So I'd love for you to, if you can address that today, that'd be great.
So the district did receive special master fund for 2014. The district has not received special master fund for 2015.
Okay, so they just
Not yet.
haven't
Not yet.
come in.
Eventually, we get it, but we haven't received it.
All right, and we know what, and I'm assuming that's going to be part of within this budget. All right. This is something that's maybe is off color, but everything seems to have a master in it. So a special master, and then we have this thing called the master plan. I'm wondering, are we going to, is the public going to be, have a view of what the master plan is? Because I've heard.
Facility master plan.
Facility master plan.
Facilities plan.
Facilities plan, so take away master,
Maybe
facilities plan.
but I just keep hearing master plan. So, I mean, in my head, that's how it comes out to me. I just want to let you guys, I want you guys to know about that. So, oh, darn it, I lost my thing.
Kind of the thumbnail that we use internally.
Oh, okay, all right, well, I'm just being aware language is
Oh, yes,
powerful.
actually.
So, really excited about a couple of things you have on here. I'm interested in the baccalaureate and all the maps and all that wonderful stuff. I'm excited that you are looking to support the music program by starting in 4th grade. It's where I started. In relation to that, though, I'm concerned that, do our schools right now properly staffed with, whether it be the high school or the middle school? Middle school is probably my bigger concern. For the music program. It seemed to me that they might be in the weeds right now. So just something that if we're looking for going forward, do we have enough as it is? I know last year it was to be addressed, adding, I think it was 1 full position, splitting half and half, something like that. I'm not sure if it's worked out with having folks leave the middle school. I think Miss forgot her name. Derbyshire left last year, so we just replaced her.
So I can answer that. So we
Okay.
did have the full-time position. And
In the
yes,
middle,
the-
okay.
The middle school chose not to hire that position because they, according to them, didn't need it in their schedule. The high school did, but not the middle
So
school.
you're saying we were dealing still with Olkowski's decision-makings on that?
I didn't hear what you said.
So we're dealing with, so this year is based on Olkowski's planning at the middle school?
The school last year did not needed that position. It was offered to them. The high school they took the position at the middle school
Okay.
last year. So for next year now, for this coming year, they can go back and all schools are told to present their needs of their staffing.
Okay, so the budget going forward hopefully there will be funds for that, so for the proper staffing.
If they're right.
asked for it. All
If
I
they're
need to do is
presented
ask-
as their need,
Ask
yes.
and they shall
Yeah.
receive. All right, excellent stuff. I want to address just something that was said by the other gentleman earlier about the public perception. I know in other meetings I have spoken about this, feeling like it is a big deal and what more can we do. I have to get some props to Ms. Markey over here in terms of, she's done a really good job, especially this year with promoting some of the really awesome, positive things going on in the district. And this town may not have a budget for just a full-time public relations campaign, and some of it may have to be homegrown. But, all the things that even board members, they can do on their own in terms of writing, having their own blogs, things that feed out to the public. So when you search Windham Public Schools, suddenly there's an article coming from Dr. Sewell or Mr. Lambert or, Mr. Kalajian. These things are all suddenly coming up, and now we have our own homegrown public relations, campaign. Does it take some time? Absolutely, but I know if I search Al Korzinski on Google, that certain things are going to come up. Most of them are going to be really good. Some of them may not, some of them maybe not, but
So teachers from high school you have to worry about.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't feel bad about my old school froze, so I felt okay about that. So, and I'm not going to, I'll cut it there. I am concerned with some of the language I heard about cutting and where can we save, and I think if that, going in with what Ms. Lambert said, it's great for us to save money if we're going to, but we need to be getting some results for it. I think the public who will be saying yay or nay on passing a budget, this year I think it's going to be more difficult. It's going to be more difficult. We're going to there are plenty of folks out there who were pissed off that the school budget passed, right? And maybe now they're going to get enforced. Maybe they laid off a little bit from getting out there and voting. This year they're going to be out there. So folks like myself and other folks who will be out there advocating for our school budget and wanting to support the school board and Dr. Garcia, we're going to need ammunition out there when we're talking to folks, saying this is why, this is why these things are good for you. we're going to need ammunition that says, this is where your money went last year, and here's where the improvements are. So I'm hoping as we go forward with some of these documents that are going to be available, we're going to have just that. There's probably something else in mind, but I know I've already taken too much time.
Mr. Korzinski, I'd like to address a comment you made. My experience has been that this board is driven from the students, the impact of students on students. So as we go forward, our process is, efficiencies are about just that. Dr. Sewell referred to the history of school budgets. We try and get this year what we got last year, and that is a philosophy that in any kind of institution proliferates. We do it continually, even when things change that may require that we react differently and be more efficient. So as you begin to screw down on the culture of an organization, you start finding an anomaly here and an anomaly there, and relationships in the org chart that don't work any longer, so you can take 2 or 3 positions and make one position that is more efficient and more cost-effective. And those are the things and the ways we're looking at when you hear reduction or combination. It's not about the elimination of a service, but making the outcome more efficient and more positive. I think I speak for the whole board in that. We're driven by communicating that the things we're doing are about creating a school district that is going into the future, offers our children all of the opportunities and flexibilities necessary for them to be successful in the direction they want to go. The ECHO program is just one example of that. So we're always ready to answer those questions and allay those confusions, but we really are, as a group, driven by what is best for the children and their futures in this district.
I appreciate you, addressing that, and I'm not questioning that. I
didn't think you were. I really didn't think you were, Al.
Dr. Sewell's thinking that I wasn't thinking that he was saying, hey, we're cutting 25 teachers or anything like that. I believe you when we're looking for efficiencies. Yes. Hopefully there's going to be some substantiation, obviously, behind whatever the decisions they're going to be made. There's a good chance that maybe administratively we are a little top-heavy. Is it from on the central office side, or is it from the school side? How does that relation work? That's what you all are going to do, and then we'll get that information, and then we'll tell our taxpayers, hey, here's where we need to support that. And it has to be clear, correct? And obviously, I'm assuming, Dr. Garcia is not going to look to put anything together that she can't get her folks to rally behind. If that's an addition or a subtraction, it doesn't make a difference if it looks good and sounds good on paper. If no one is going to support it, if fundamentally and if mathematically everything makes sense, but everyone else hates it, it doesn't matter. It's not, the progress that you want to make is not going to get there. Same as having a principal that on paper seems good, maybe sounds good in public, but no one likes that person. It doesn't matter. Whatever initiative you're trying to get done is probably not going to happen. So that's all I really want to say. And with that, good night.
Can I say something to Mr. Klosky? So,
thank you very much.
So thank you for your comments and very articulate allows what. You were a great support last year to us. Extremely a great support last year. And as I said to you before, I know that we need your support again in passing this budget. I can assure you the district headed in the right direction. We are making progress. There's still a lot of things that need to be done. And I was reading a book today that said take 10 years to turn around a school district. Actually, Mrs. Manson has the book. Do you have the book there to show it to you? To show it to us? And the book is what's the name of the book?
What school boards can do, reform governance.
Yeah, I want to buy it for my school board, member for them to read. A very interesting book.
It's very short.
But what school boards can do to reform, what is the role of the board and what they can do to reform school. But I'm hoping that, again, we will count in your support. As you say, it would be much more difficult this year to pass the budget.
Excellent. And if I may make one more just a comment. I think there's a lot of quality people in our district.
That's very true.
Quality teachers, quality faculty, staff. in leadership. And I hope that in many of the turns and decisions that you make, whether it be, making a building to support whatever changes you may be making, that these folks are called upon for their opinions and ideas and thoughts. I know even with, some of the schools that have happened over the course of the last decade or 20 years or whatever, even some of those cases, if conversations would have been made with, whether it be with teachers, whether it be with grounds crew, whether it be with principals, there's probably some things that would be different now, that would be different now. So I hope, whatever it might be, I hope that there is always going to be a cumulative opportunity for the folks who are here and who have been here, an opportunity to voice their opinion. And that's it.
Good points, and thank you.
We're going to buy it for the school board members, don't bother, it's a very, very good book. Yeah. He is one of my professors in the Broad Superintendent's Academy. This is what successful school boards do.
Is that it? All right, so I believe we're ready to adjourn, unless there's any additional business?
No, I think we're,
So our next meeting is February the 10th, and we come back with more details. We work on the other agenda for that.
See you at the retreat?
Friday.
See you here Friday?
Friday,
I'll definitely be
8
there.
o'clock.
No, you won't.
8:30.
Oh, 8:30.
8:30.
I'm always there already.
8:30. We will get you the book. We want to buy that book for you.
Oh, you
So
got
I'll entertain,
So you wanna
I'll
pass it
entertain
around?
a
A
motion.
motion to adjourn?
Always in order.
Please.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manson. I'm going to get it for the board, what school boards can do.